the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Hi, my name's Chris Wolven. I'm a member of Doncaster Unitarian Church, and I've been coming here for probably 3 years. I've been a Unitarian for 25 years. I was originally at St Saviour Gate in York, and then more recently at Fulwood. I discovered Unitarianism back 25 years ago when my oldest son was getting engaged to a girl whose family were Baptists. And we had conversations about religion generally, and I'd always, when I was a youngster, I'd been involved with the church, and it was sort of an evangelist sort of church. And it kind of drifted the way things do as we get older. And I got into music a lot, and I went to, I started working and all sorts of things. I went abroad and worked abroad. But eventually, I came back here, and after this conversation, I decided that none of the religion that I knew about had anything to offer me. But I decided to take a look. And so there wasn't an internet in those days, so I had a look around. And if you remember the Pears Cyclopedia, I thumbed through that, and I came across Unitarianism. And I read that, and I thought, well, this sounds pretty good. So I decided to find a Unitarian church. And as I say, I was in York at the time, and they were not well advertised. I eventually found the Unitarian church in the library under historic buildings. And I walked across York, and I looked at the notice board, and eventually I phoned a number, spoke to somebody and said, oh, we've got Bill Darlison is taking the service, you better ring him. So we rang Bill Darlison's number, and he said, well, yeah, just come along. And I did, with my wife at the time. We came along, and we haven't looked back since, really, and that was 25 years ago.
My name is Josephine Copley. I was born a Unitarian. I was born into a Unitarian family who lived in Rotherham. My father was also a Unitarian from birth, and he went to live with his uncle in Rotherham as a boy, and they attended the Church of Our Father in Rotherham. And when my mother was, when my mother and father were married, my mother was a Methodist, and she became a Unitarian, and they were married at the Church of Our Father. And then when my brother and I came along, we had a period when, as small children, we didn't attend. You sort of drift away very often when you have small children. And we came back to the church later when we were growing up. And then my husband and I were married there. And then we went to live in Manchester for a while. And coming back to Doncaster in the 70s, I was looking for a Unitarian church. By this time, the Church of Our Father in Rotherham had closed and become a mosque. So I had no idea where the nearest Unitarian church was in Doncaster. So I thought I'll have a look in the phone book, which I did. And Alec Finbow was the minister at that point, and he directed me down here to this church. And there it was all the time, behind these gates on Hallgate. And it's true what they say, this is called over the years the hidden church, because it stands well back from the road. So I was very happy to discover it, and I brought my father along, who was a trustee at the Rotherham Church. He'd retired, and he and my mother had come to live with us in Doncaster. And so I was really pleased to find this church, as much for him as for myself, because he missed his church very much.
My name is Paquita Mccready, and I have been a Unitarian for approximately 15 years. I originally come from Germany, hence Brigitte. I'm married to Thomas Mccready, who is the minister here, but I have been worshipping at the Hull Unitarian Church beforehand, and then we moved to Doncaster. I have not become a Unitarian because of Tom, but probably partially I still am a Unitarian because of Tom, because worshipping together in this church is something we do. So my Sundays are normally spent at Doncaster Unitarian Church or other churches around in the area. We go to Nottingham and to Boston, for instance. I've also developed my own preaching skills here. And for me, this is a place where I have arrived. I think belonging has also a lot to do with arriving. And I had a very multifaceted relationship to my family. And when I came back from England to my folks over there, the arriving always was fraught. It was a lot of reproaches for what I had done and what I hadn't done and all the rest of it. And church life is a bit of the opposite. I arrive here and I feel that I do belong. And I can...
Well, my name is Jim Stern, and I'm a member of Doncaster Free Christian Church. I was for decades a seeker. I knew I liked worship and I went to many different churches, but I always mumbled or mimed through bits of their liturgy and creed that I couldn't agree with, and so I could never really become a communicant or a full member of them. And then some sort of providence made me look up Unitarians on the internet. And the following Sunday I said to my wife, I'm going to Lincoln to try this chapel. And I went there and walked in, and Providence had arranged that Tom Mccready would be taking the service and he would preach brilliantly. And I came out of that service a Unitarian, I think for life. And I joined that church and was very happy there. And I've amicably gravitated to Doncaster because of the lovely music and singing here, which I find very, very fulfilling. The other thing I want to say is that a few years ago, I was very seriously ill, and I thought I was dying, and it was in fact on the cards. And I realised, although I was going to hate seeing this lovely life end, and I was worried for Sandra, my wife, under that I didn't mind. And I found that Unitarianism has not only been the inspiration and discovery of the end of my life, or the latter years of my life, and it's unlocked my muse, but I found that it will also be the consolation and the hope of my death. And therefore, I've found everything in this faith, and I am just grateful that it's there.
Oh, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.